Check, check, check. Hey, everybody. I'm just testing out a whole bunch of stuff tonight here at home. So bear with me. Feel free to throw some comments out. I am, like I said, I'm just testing some things. Hang on one second. All right. Yeah, okay, hang on. I'm going to share this. On my book of face. All right. Hey, Steve. Thanks for your patience. I'm just testing some things out tonight. Like I said, trying to figure out why YouTube makes my picture so dark. Hey, Tiago. Okay. Yeah, again, I think I've streamed live to Facebook or YouTube like once. So I'm just making I'm just trying to do a couple of things here because I want to stream to YouTube a lot more, but YouTube, for some reason, just makes it really dark. Hey, Douglas, how are you? Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it. Hey, how are you? Thanks so much. Let me mute this. Sorry, bear with me. So first of all, again, thank you for hanging out right now, because you're kind of helping. Well, you're not kind of. You are helping me out right now. I'm just trying to figure out a couple of things here with YouTube and their streaming stuff. One, it's really dark. Two, I'm streaming at 1080, but YouTube is only showing 720. Don't know why that is happening. So again, thanks for just hanging out while I figure some of this stuff out. Let me do this first of all. Let's see if that does anything. Excuse me. All right, so that's a little bit better, but I don't know what is up with YouTube. Just being weird. So again, hang on to your questions. I'm happy to hang out tonight and answer questions and all that kind of stuff, but hang on to them for a second because let me just try and figure some more of this kind of stuff out. Like why it's only streaming 720 when I have it set to stream 1080 and hang on. Wait a minute. I think I'm streaming 1080. I mean, I guess if I was streaming 1080, then it would show me, but hang on. Let me see if I can find... no, don't want to do that. Like, just show me what's happening. That's all I want. Yeah, okay, I'm streaming 1080. I do not know why YouTube is not accepting the 1080 part of it. No big deal, but I want to get this right. You know, I want to do these. I want to do a bunch of live stuff on YouTube, and I want to get it right. Where? Okay. Like live stream settings, right? Okay. Details. Blah blah blah. Live chat is on. Great. All that stuff is good. No, don't want to do that. What is this? Feedback, stream health. Stream is excellent. That's all it says. Stream settings. It does not say anything about 1080. But okay. Again, thank you everybody for just hanging with me. I was hoping like YouTube would catch up and start streaming 1080, but it is not, and I don't like that. Because to me, this doesn't even look great. I'm thinking to myself I can just stop it and start again, but I don't even know if that's going to do anything. Hey Alex, yeah, it doesn't look bad in 720, but it's not, you know, good enough. Like on my, I'm watching on my laptop down here, and up here is my studio, you know, screen and everything. It's bright, it's vibrant, It says I'm streaming in 1080, and that was the setting that I chose. But on YouTube, it does not look like that. Kick that back just a touch. Okay. Again, thank you everybody for just hanging out with me while I figure this out. The setting that everybody for just hanging out with me while I figure this out. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not sure there's anything else that I can do right now, because I've got it set. I've got everything set the way it should be, and I stream all the time, just not to YouTube. So I'm not used to it, and it is not giving me back what I want, but it doesn't look bad. We can deal with it tonight. Sounds like my Easy Drummer issue with Studio One. I've never used Studio One. I have used Easy Drummer, and I use Superior Drummer now. But Easy Drummer is fantastic. But I think I've only ever used it with Pro Tools. And it's funny because somebody was asking me today, one of my students was asking me today about, Easy Drummer straight out of the box sounds a little out of the box. It sounds a little canned. So he was asking me if I had any tricks to, just make it sound better. And I do. I had to go through the same thing. I love TuneTrack's products. I love Easy Drummer and Superior Drummer, but they need a little bit of mix to help them. So I will do a live stream sometime and go through that kind of stuff. Not tonight, but I'll go through that kind of stuff as well. Hey, thanks, Alejandro. Thank you. I appreciate that. I want to get this looking as good as possible. Multiple cameras, screen sharing, like all that stuff that I already do. But again, I've never done it on YouTube. So YouTube is inevitably a problem child. But at least you can hear my voice, you can hear my guitar. I'm just using an Axe FX 3 tonight with a bunch of presets that I made up. Like this one's just, did I store this? Store, save, enter, saved. Okay, so this is just a rig that I made up here. And that's kind of the, oh sorry, I'll turn off my microphone because I stream all the time on my site Gitopia. If anybody's interested in guitar education, everything that I know is going on there. But part of streaming means let's kill the microphone while we're playing so you're not hearing a whole bunch of just pick attack type stuff. But that's just kind of like a crunchy setting. I did a few of them, not a ton of them, but this is a nice rotary. I like that one. That's a nice one. And I also did a trem. That's a nice one too. I don't use the trem a lot. I do actually use the rotary a lot. And then like this is a lead. with a little more delay. So that's you know, it's still not like super saturated, but that is what I have labeled as a lead sound right now, with a lot of delay just for fun. Which again, I've got the Fractal FC12 little foot controller here, so I can change my presets and turn on and off different kinds of delays and virtual overdrives and all of that kind of stuff. But it sounds nice. I am going to try and keep up with the comments here. Hey, Matt, how are you, bud? What's the delay setting you have? This is just a stereo delay. Like if you listen, it should be broadcasting in stereo. If it's not, I'm going to, you know, write YouTube a worded letter. Okay, so I have a little bit of modulation on that. I love putting a little modulation on the delay tails, but we need a little more. We need a little more feedback. And I always mess up editing this stuff. Crap! I just messed it up again. I need to plug my Axe-Fx into my computer. That's like the only way that I can edit this thing. I can't stand editing it like on the little screen. I always mess it up. It's my fault. It's user error for sure. Yeah, it's called the ambient stereo delay. But we need, if we're really gonna hear it, enter. Now edit. Now enter. No. Enter. No. Again, you're all very patient for just sitting here with me. Repeat. Where's my feedback? Well, the feedback is set the same. That's not what we want. All right, so I mean, this is a lot of delay. So, Matt, this is just a quarter note. I don't have the 2 times set differently, which I usually do. Again, I don't use the Axe-Fx enough to have spent a lot of time figuring this out, but I'm going to crank this up a little bit more. So I don't know. To me, that's a lot of delay. I don't really use it that way. But sometimes it's super fun to just throw in a ton of delay. But yeah, this is not giving me like a true dual delay where I've got a subdivision over here and a subdivision over here. That's actually the way that I use a real delay. Like on my pedal board right now down here, there's a Strymon Volante, and that's the way that I use that. And really any stereo delay. Let me try and catch up with some of the questions here. I bet your frames per second is the issue. Some 1080p webcams record at 30, but et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I'm not using a webcam. I'm using a real cinema camera. Not even a DSLR. This is a Blackmagic cinema camera, and I have it set, it's 4K 30 right now. Again, it's YouTube. I stream almost every day. Well, not almost every day. I stream multiple times per week. Well, I guess that's almost every day, right? Just not here, and it's always fine. It's something with YouTube. But again, I mean, it's not terrible, but we'll figure it out. Hey Jeff, this is the Fractal, the AxeFX 3. I like running my AxeFX delays in parallel. The tone sounds nice and warm like a small box. Yeah, really the only way that I set up this AxeFX is how I would use my real stuff. I don't want to spend time programming. I refuse to do it because it just sucks all your time. I just want to play. So I have my rig in the AxeFX pretty much set up like I would here. And I don't use parallel delays in my rig. I love delay. I never, well, 99% of the time, delay is always on. And it sounds good, I like it. But I never do parallel. Well, it's a great idea though, for sure, you know. Try everything. Hey William. Do I use Amplitube at all? I just got Amplitube Max and I'm trying to figure out how to get where the streets have no name delay. I have used Amplitube in the past, for sure. Always for effects. I've never used any of AxeFX, Amplitube, Guitar Rig, the Helix stuff, the Kemper stuff. I use it for fun stuff just like this, you know. It's later at night. I don't want to fire up the amps. But usually it's not even for the amp models. It's just the effects. So in Amplitube, you should be able to do that because that's the way I used to do it. And I'm sure you can just throw a delay on there, like a nice dotted eighth note delay for some kind of U2 thing. Brett, yeah. It's easy to get into mad scientist mode when you're dealing with all this stuff, and before you know it, your day is gone. And I hate that. I don't want to do it. I don't want to deal with software and updating and firmware, and all this stuff is great. I just don't want to deal with it. I just want to plug in and record or play, and that's why I stick with the real stuff. But again, I'm playing the AxeFX right now. It sounds awesome. Again, I've got it pretty wet with the delay right now, but it's fun. It sounds good. Josh Smith interview question, live show, would you prefer great guitar, crappy amp, or crappy guitar, great amp? That's a really good question. It's a tough question because to me, that's the formula. Forget pedals, it's guitar to amp, and if you find out what works for you, like for me, these guitars through the Friedman amps is it, particularly the small box. I don't need any pedals with it, although I do, for color and such, it's fun. But I'm thinking to myself, like if I was playing something like this, or any of my guitars, through a crappy amp, it still is not going to satiate my tonal needs. and vice versa. If I was playing a crappy guitar through a good amp, you know, if I think about it, I think I would take the crappy guitar and run it through a good amp. I think that would work better for me than a really good guitar through a crappy amp. I think so. Do you do your own setups? What's the relief and action set to? Yeah, Matt, I do all my own setups unless I'm on tour. You know, if I'm on tour, I have a tech, but at home I don't. Or you know, I don't want to go and rely on somebody else just to make my guitars sound good and feel good. What is the relief and action set to? I never do it by a ruler. And I know that that's what a tech would do. I just do it by feel. For example, I was recording today with this Les Paul, which is a gold top Les Paul, and it's fantastic. It is set up very middle of the road. There's no buzzing or anything. The action's not super low. But then I picked up this Strat right here. And that Strat I have set up so low to the point where now that I was playing that Les Paul, the Strat doesn't feel good to me anymore. Or it doesn't feel like this, you know. It's a little too low. So I don't know what the number is, but it's a feel thing, you know. It's just a feel thing. And if I'm recording, my action like is a little bit higher, just because I want those notes to ring out as true as possible for the recording. Live, I want it a little bit, you know, more comfortable. What other places are you streaming almost every day? My website, Gitopia. Gitopia.com. That's my guitar education platform. And I've just been trying to find out like where I want to take it. And this year threw everything off. Of course, 2021 is up in the air as far as what's happening. So I really put a lot of thought into thinking about, let's say 2021 is all canceled, just like this year, right? What's going to happen then? You know, again, it's like spending time programming in Axe Effects or you know, just keeping up with that kind of stuff, or just plugging into an amp. It's about time for me. And I've got a lot of music projects in the works, and when my time gets taken away from that, it kind of gets in my way. So that is one of the reasons why I'm streaming to YouTube tonight is I'm going to stream more to YouTube because I usually don't, you know. Gitopia is a membership platform, and I work with the people there, the members there. We stream every week. We're starting next year, we're going to be streaming a lot more on the site, but you still gotta have exposure. Anybody has to have exposure. If you want to bring people to a platform like that, or to buy your product. It's basic marketing, it's basic advertising. It's why you see commercials here on YouTube and on TV. You have to have product exposure. Whatever your product is, that could be your art, your music, a guitar education website, whatever it's going to be. And that is something that I have purposefully severely neglected forever. You know, I've always said, well, if these people are going to pay good money for a membership, then I'm going to just, you know, work with them and do that. But it's got to go beyond that now. So, hey, Dejo Blue, I appreciate that super chat test. Thank you so much. Again, I'm so new to like the YouTube platform for streaming anymore that I'm just getting caught up on super chat and members, you know, all that good stuff. So I appreciate that a lot. Thank you so much. See, that's one of the things that I'm trying to work on here is like I'd love to put your comment front and center, but I tried to stream earlier with another platform called StreamYard that does that, but it was not accepting my guitar. For some reason, it was not hearing that. So I was like, you know what? I could spend my time figuring that out or just go live. So I'm back to the other streaming platform that I usually use. But I'll figure it all out. I'll get those super chats to be prominent so everybody can see, and I appreciate that super chat test for sure. Thank you. And eventually I will take, like, in the Axe-Fx, if anybody has an Axe-Fx, this is called a rig. And so there are like 8 different scenes on the rig, and eventually I'm going to put it up here on YouTube for people to download. I just haven't gotten there yet, Brett is asking, oh no, Tiago says guitar, amp, and a fan. That's right. That's the Steve Vai formula. Guitar, amp, a good overdrive, and a fan. Were you working on a 7-string stuff just before doing this, or did she call you? It's a great question, Brett. So right now I'm working on my new acoustic record, A Collection of Short Stories, Volume 2. Volume 1 is up on all the streaming platforms. Go ahead and check that out. I'm working on Volume 2 right now. In parallel, my band, Monument Shine, we wrote a 10-song record this year, and now we're going through and we're recording. In parallel to that, I'm working on a 5-song EP. And it's just fun stuff, like the acoustic record is obviously acoustic. The band is more of a jam band type thing. The EP is just, I can do whatever I want, and it's going to be instrumental. And I was doing something with the 7-string here. Let me clean this up a little bit. So you should be able to hear, a little bit of a crunch, and I should even, let me do this. So now there's just a hair of dirt on the sound right now, but you should be able to hear an octave. I've got an octave below right now. It's going to be something like that. I don't know what it's going to be. It's just going to, that's the first song, the first riff. I wanted to break out the 7-string again because unless I'm on tour with Steve, I really have not been writing or playing a lot of 7-string, but I wanted to bring it out for this 5-song EP that I'm doing. And I love using an octave divider, put that octave, below it, clean up the sound a little bit. And that just sounds cool to me. I always loved that. So yeah, Brett, to answer your question, this EP I'm working on, I really want some good 7-string on there. Not so it's like heavy and metal. It's not going to be like a metal EP. It's just going to be like a mixture of everything that is who I am as a player right now. And I think that's where an artist has to go, in the sense that, the records that I put out, aside from the acoustic one, the records that I put out, they're probably labeled rock. But that's never been just what I've played. So as life goes on, you gotta evolve and take your art with life. And so it's just a combination of a lot of stuff. There will definitely be some rock stuff in there, funk, fusion, just throwing everything in the pot. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Can we hope for a US tour of my original stuff sometime soon? Sometime soon? Probably not. One of, again, that's the goal of working on all of these original projects, is to get out and play everywhere and anywhere with any variety of these original acts. That's really the point. Again, this year threw everything off. I had gigs booked with my band Monument Shine. Of course, all that stuff didn't happen, and who knows what's going to happen in 21. Hopefully, we'll be able to get out and play. Fingers crossed, right? Hey, John. If you ever want some different Axe FX presets to fool around with, I'd be happy to send some along. Thanks, John. I appreciate that, man. I do. I use the Axe FX, but not all that much. Like I said, I use it for this kind of stuff, or if, just kind of noodling through some ideas. But to me, I just can't get away from the sound of just miking up some cabinets. I've got an M160 on this cabinet. I've got a 57 on this cabinet. I just use the two together in stereo. It just sounds so good. And it takes 5 seconds to set up. I don't have to deal with dialing things in and all that kind of stuff. I know once you do, okay, there it is. There's your sound. But I don't know, maybe I'm a little old school about it. But to me, again, it's just about time. I do not want to waste my time dealing with the digital stuff, really. Dejo says, Tim Pierce has a great setup integrating YouTube with his online lesson pro. Yeah, Tim's a buddy of mine, and we've talked about this kind of stuff a lot. Integrating your lesson platform with the exposure. Tim has gone the route, as a smart person would, of looking at what gets good views. Cover songs, good information, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not above cover songs, don't get me wrong. As far as YouTube stuff, I love playing covers, I love learning covers, they're fun. But it's okay, I could do that, or I could work on my records. I gotta draw the line somewhere, and I gotta work on my music, For better or for worse, I prioritize that over numbers of any kind. But again, at the same time, you can put out a record, but if nobody's gonna listen to it, what's the point? So it's all a cyclical thing. It all feeds each other. So Tim's got a fantastic thing going, along with many other players, I'm more interested in sharing my experience. I've been a touring and professional musician a professional, making money with music since I was in my early teens, but a touring professional as a grown-up, it's been over 20 years now, and you can't buy that experience. You can learn a lot, but experience is the difference. I don't know. I'd rather share my experience with stuff than say, here's the 5 trillionth time to learn Back in Black. We don't need that again. At least in my perspective, I am an OG YouTuber. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, I can remember in 2000, you're mentioning 2006, I think in 2005, and this was before YouTube really had any kind of partnership program or monetization aside from their commercials, the ads that they still run, right? But I remember 2005 getting a call, and it was somebody from YouTube, and that was only because I was putting up at least a video a week, and I became one of their YouTube partners way back then. And then I took it all down when I decided to start a website. That might have not been the best idea, but at the time it was. 2020, this year literally changed everything for platforms and such, because now musicians do not have a way to make money unless you are starting some kind of platform. It's why YouTube started memberships, you know? The problem is YouTube takes 30% of your income, which is, okay, they're handling the logistics, but it's not completely unreasonable, but it's a lot. You know, Patreon takes 25%. Most other platforms take 25%. Again, if you've got a lot of people subscribing on those platforms, good, great. I'm not convinced yet to to throw everything back up here on YouTube. It's not out of the question, but it's not going to make me delete Gitopia. So my thought is, just do everything. Throw a little something here on YouTube, keep Gitopia, throw a little something on Patreon. You know, it's like Spotify, Apple Music, Prime Music, wherever you prefer to go and get your music from, you have your platform of preference, right? So my thought has been, well, let's just give people the option to get what I offer, but on their preferred platform. So it's not out of the question. Figuring it out. Have you ever used Charvel guitars? I mean, I've played them, but I've never used them for any length of time. You know, I never did a tour with them. I never did any recording with them. I used to have a Jackson, but it wasn't a good Jackson, and it played horribly, so it came and went very quickly. But again, it was not a good Jackson. It was not, you know, back in the really good days of Jackson Charvel, which they have brought back. The Guthrie Charvel, oh boy, that one has called my name a few times. And yeah, that's an awesome guitar. So both those companies are making great stuff now. Every company makes great stuff, and every company makes cost-effective things. That's how we'll put it. Surprising that all of your PRS guitars no Tremonti. You know, the single cut PRSs, they're awesome, but yeah, I don't have a desire for a single cut PRS. I've got a couple Les Pauls up here and well, sorry, over here. And I love them, of course, but yeah, I didn't have a desire to do single cut PRSs. Who knows? Maybe, you know, maybe down the line. 2020 is the year of Murphy's Law. That's right. You guys remember Dave's party piece from the Astoria DVD? It was complete. Thanks. You know, again, speaking of the master Eddie Van Halen and his unfortunate passing. You know, unfortunately, that's life. But, you know, that if anybody knows what he's talking about, my solo spot on the Astoria DVD was basically inspired by Cathedral, the Van Halen song Cathedral, which was just delays. Hey, Elaine. Thanks, bud. Pete Thorne does this stuff really well, yeah. And again, I mean, there's so much time that goes into it. And that's where my mind has been over all these years, for like the last decade, basically, is I can either, and it's why I stopped doing a lot of product demos. Back in the late, like 08, 09, 07, like stuff like that, I was doing product demos all the time. And that was my first glimpse into, wait a minute, I'm trying to get a record done, but I got to do this product demo for this company. I had to stop doing it. I stopped doing product demos altogether. Ever since, I still haven't done many of them. I only do them for friends, people I know that work or own these companies, or PRS or Friedman. It's just about time, and I think at some point, everybody, no matter what you're doing, you have to say, how am I spending my day? Am I spending it to make money? All right, that's life again. We all have to do that. But when we're all on our deathbed, not to sound morbid, but when we're all looking back on our life, I just want to be pleased with how I spent my time. And again, the smart ones like Pete, like Tim, and many others, they're probably way smarter than me, because where's the audience? The audience is on YouTube, so let's go there. The audience is on Facebook, so let's share there. You know what I mean? I've got a website I have never once marketed. I have never spent any money on marketing or advertising for Gitopia. It's always been word of mouth. It's worked, I'm ready for it to go beyond just that, again, which is why I'm here tonight. Just dipping my toes in the water, so to speak. But it's right. Those guys are definitely doing something right. I got to find the balance for myself, though, between this, some demo stuff, but I got so much music that I have been wanting to get out that I haven't been able to because of touring, because of other things, and I'm ready to sacrifice everything else to get all that done. So that's what's happening. And I know some of you here have been, with me for a long time and can't, what's the word? I can't, I appreciate it so much. We'll just put it that way. I'm trying to think of what the word is. But you get it. I appreciate it so much. And, it's great to have that fan base, just a people base, and that's the way that I think of it. But yeah. So again, this is you can see where my brain is. I'm like working on ways to do what is going to satisfy me, keep the music rolling out, but do this a lot more and in a lot more ways. Hey Juan, 7-string acoustic is really big in Brazilian music. That's awesome. That's a 7-string acoustic back there, and I am using it on my new acoustic record, but I'm sure it's the Brazilian music and the people who play acoustic all the time. I mean, I'm not that person. I'm just having fun with the acoustic and just writing some nice chill songs. But I do like that low B string, at least on mine. I've got it tuned to just a regular B. Every once in a while, just doing something where it's got that big full sound. That sounds awesome. I love that. Hey, Keith. As someone that has played out also, no really excited view, I appreciate the live experience and ideas compared to covers. Real world experience and information always ranks higher to me. Keith, yeah, your mind is right there with me. Because it's like I don't want when there's somebody who's got experience. I want to know their behind the scenes on that. I'm really not interested in them showing me, the Wind Cries Mary for the trillionth time on YouTube. Which again, if you trust that person because you know of their experience, that's going to probably help you and give you a motivation to learn whatever it is that person is teaching. But yeah, I want the real stuff. I want the experience and how did you get there? What do you do? What do you practice? What are you working on? And what do you do to make that work come to life? Like that to me, that's the goal. I love learning from these players who are doing that kind of stuff. like, you know, again, most of you know me from the 20 plus years that I've been in Vi's band. During this year, when Vi was doing his live streams, I was watching. I know the guy inside and out, but I'm still watching because his experience and the way that that has been refined into the words and the advice and the insight that is coming out just as a person and on the guitar, you can't, that's hard to find, you know. That's the experience. I love that stuff. I'm right there with you guys. I'm watching that too. I'm like, rewind. What was that? Okay, let me think about that a little bit more. So much great stuff. Love that. Eric, yeah. Hey Eric, how are you, bud? I'm not a fan of single cut electric guitars in general. It seems to restrict my access to the upper frets, not massively, but just enough to trigger my OCD. Yeah, you know, but I know some people feel that way. I know some people that feel that way about Strats as well, though, you know, unless you've got like a big scoop out up here. I mean, even here, the side of my hand, you know, kind of hits the guitar at the 22nd fret or so. But again, you learn to deal with that kind of stuff and figure it out. I was playing, like I said, I was playing my Les Paul, this Gold Top, earlier today. It's just such a good guitar. It's hard to put it down. But yeah, it's obviously a different beast than something like this. For a lot of my writing, I pick up one of my PRSs. How are you coping with the pandemic? What are the challenges of working musician like yourself? That's a great question. You know, like every other musician, all the gigs were canceled, so that sucks horribly because that's a big chunk of income on you know, a variety of levels. It's not just the gigs, it's the merchandise at the gigs, the streams that come after, you know, somebody sees your show and then they want to listen to you afterwards, you know, whatever it is. And I'm not a big artist at all, but, you know, it is part of the income, you know. Fortunately, yeah, I've already got Gitopia. That has been established and that has been keeping things afloat for sure. I will be the first person in line for a vaccine just to be able to get out again and hopefully get out and play in 21 as soon as possible. And then you have to think of all of the other people involved, like the whole crew, the venue owners, the agents, the promoters, managers, like everyone. Everyone is scrambling, for lack of a better word, to find new ways to make money. And the music industry has been put into this situation many times before. Thank you to Napster and all of the, you know, online theft of music that happened that made the industry have to adapt. It still isn't what it was by any means. Streaming is nothing. You know, streaming barely pays anything. It's all about those gigs. And it's about merchandise and monetizing things that way. So with that all out of the picture, this year has been a very big, like, for a lot of players, including myself. So, you know, hopefully things get better. But again, like I said, I mean, fortunately, I already had Gitopia set up. It's been set up for years, you know, now, and it continues to go. There's new content on it every single week. But that's a great question, and it's really, yeah, it's a different world now for sure. Hopefully, we can get some of that back in 21. Did I miss something? Okay, yeah. George Van Epps, yeah, awesome. Awesome player. Herman Lee and Thomas McRocklin are on Twitch now, and you can multi-stream simulcast to YouTube and Twitch and other platforms all the same. Greg Koch does that. Yeah, that's another element to all this is I want to stream, and I've been researching platforms that stream like everywhere, but all of the chat goes into the same window, which is, I'm only streaming to YouTube right now, but that's kind of what I'm aiming at right now. Because again, it's like, just go on all the platforms. Go on all of them. How can that hurt? Let's do it. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. And again, it's just about time. I've been on Twitch. I've never gone live on Twitch, but I've been on it, and I'm just instantly confused. I'm like, is this for video games? And I know Thomas and Herman and a bunch of other players, they're streaming on Twitch a lot, and that's awesome. Again, it's a popular platform. You have to go there. So I will be integrating that as well at some point. Hey Peter, how are you, bud? Any new effects you're playing with? Honestly, I've been a little bit boring with effects. I've just been playing a ton this year, and writing and practicing, and because of that focus, I'm less focused on gear. Pretty much I'm just grabbing one of these guitars every day, whichever one is floating my boat, or whichever one I need for a certain recording purpose, and I'm plugged into the small box. As much as I love effects and I love messing around with them, I haven't really been doing too much with them. But like I said, I don't know if you were here earlier, but I've been working on this song that's just got this octave. It's going to be something like that. And I love that. I love getting inspiration from effects. Somebody brought up Amplitube earlier, and the axe effects, all that stuff. I love getting this stuff, and I'll sit there for hours, and I'll just, like on this axe effects, when I got this, I went through and I turned that little knob, and I went through every preset. And it's not about the amps for me. Again, all that stuff is great, but I've got that situated. It's about what's inspiring me, and that's the effects. So guitar rig, Amplitube, the axe effects, etc. I love diving into those effects because it might help me write something. Like this octave divider is helping me write that song. It's really cool. It's really nice. I love how Vi is paying it forward from all that he gleaned from his years with Zappa. Yeah, Steve is so knowledgeable on so many levels. But even he had to say, listen, I can either keep doing these streams or I can actually get another record done. It's just about time. I'm trying to carve out some time for this kind of stuff far more often. And it's basically just setting boundaries, right? I'm telling myself, boundaries with myself. I'm telling myself, your day job is recording right now. You have got to get these projects done. So like basically 9 to 5, which for me is more like 10 to 8 or 10 to 7 or whenever I feel like it. But like I got to put a solid day's worth of work in to feel like satiated about getting progress happening. After that, I'm happy to do anything else, and that's when I'll usually do work on Gitopia, or I'll start doing a stream or something like that. But, everyone at some point has to say, how am I spending my time? Am I actually getting what I want done? This year, everybody gets a pass for this year because everybody's like, wait a minute, what do I do now? But I've been using this year just to write a ton and now record. I will, Tiago, I'll check out that person for sure. Hey Tom, comes across how genuine you are. I met you at the Philly Guitar Show a few years ago and had time for everyone. You were geeking out with old amps with all of us. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Again, a lot of you know me from the decades that I've been on tour with Vi, and you've seen me on stage with him and blah blah blah. But you know, everyone's got to remember that people are people. People are just people. I don't think of myself any differently, and that's to a point where I've probably neglected some of the things that you probably should be doing to, like, you know, again, if you look at social media marketing and research and blah blah blah, you're supposed to position yourself like a TV star, like a movie star, and make people think about you that way and blah blah blah. It's like, just be real, you know, just be real. I hope everybody by now knows that social media is smoke and mirrors. You know, let me get outside and let me take the best picture ever in front of this Lamborghini, living my best life. Like, people are such posers. Like, not everybody, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but you know, it's all about the gram. It's all about the shot. And you know, I can't be that. I just can't be like that. Just got to be real, and whatever that means to me, that's what I'm going to do. John is asking, how in-depth are your demos when you're writing? Just sketches, or do you program drums, etc.? You know, John, that's a great question, and it's kind of two ways. And one way was not good, and one way was good. To me, it's always, if you can produce a demo that basically sounds like the final product, then if that is not going to be the final product, like I always record with a real drummer. So if I'm gonna write, like with my band, Monument Shine, in writing the music and trying to get the demos done, before I found the drummer Josh, I was doing all the drums in Superior Drummer, and to convey my ideas to the other people, obviously I want that stuff to sound like, I want people to hear that and think like, yeah, I can get on board with that, or I can hear that, you know, being a final song, like a real song, you know? So to that purpose, I try to make things sound as pro as possible from the start, including the recording, the mixing, and the mastering, just to share an idea with my fellow bandmates. And, you know, you get to a point where that doesn't take that much time, right? But on the other hand, with my acoustic record that I'm recording right now, I went through and I kind of did a rough sketch of every song. I did not write every note or even figure out every note. So once I went through and I did 10 songs, I was like, okay, now I'm going to go back and now I'm going to start recording this stuff for real. And I went back and I realized there was a lot missing from all of these songs. So now I'm kind of going through and rewriting everything and then recording it, or rewriting it, then living with the songs to get them in my fingers, because I'm not really that much of an acoustic player, but I have to live with them and play them to get them to a point where they're going to capture nicely. So it's a lot of time, but I wish with that project that I'm in the middle of right now, I wish I did more in my writing process. But again, you know, recording, there's elements of the writing process that happens in the moment of recording anyway, you know. But to me, it's very simple. You write, you rehearse, then you record. That way, by the time you get to recording, there's no surprises. What's being recorded is a performance, not just capturing the idea or the right notes. It's a performance. That's the best kind of capture to me. So with the band stuff, that has been happening. Everything is demoed. Everything, you know, we spent the time to do that nicely. With my acoustic record, I did not. And now I'm paying for it by just having to spend more time right now. But yeah, ideally, I love to have everything figured out before recording. Streamlabs is what most Twitch streamers use. Awesome. You know what? I have Streamlabs on this computer, actually. Yep. I have it on this computer, and again, it was one of those things that I opened it up, and I'm like, I don't know what's happening here. I can't get it to see my camera. This camera, I can't get it to see my camera. I don't know why. It's like, it seems like it's like anything else. It's like any other piece of software or anything in life. It's unfamiliar, and at first it's a little frustrating. But I also haven't read one word of instruction, so I'm sure I will. And I'm going through, and I'm going to find the right platform, the right software to bring it all together, and we'll make it happen for sure. I love going through the presets of new gear to see what it makes me want to play. Yeah, exactly. That's part of a new piece of gear's job for me. I'm going to pay this money. I'm going to get this piece of gear. This piece of gear's job for my payment is to inspire me somehow. So, yeah, even just a simple new amp, like these Smallbox 50s, these are, first of all, they're not new for me anymore. And they're very simple. But just plugging into them the first time, it was instant. It was like, this is the complement to what I have tonally up here. And it was instant inspiration. That's what I love. When gear can do that for me, that's awesome. I love that. Loved your interview on Tone Talk. Awesome. That was a lot of fun with Mark and Dave Friedman. That was a lot of fun. Great questions, great audience. Of course, Dave Friedman. He's one of those guys, like, you know, you should watch that I don't even know what it's called, a show, a podcast, but, you know, it's video, stream. But Dave Friedman's extent of experience, and to be able to ask him questions, that's that experience talking again. You know, you could have somebody who says, I'm going to start building amps. Okay, maybe they have it under their hands for a year or two. Dave Friedman's been doing it like his whole life. You know, he knows everything. Yeah, the experience is where it's at for sure. He's awesome. Great dude, great guy. If you don't have a title for that octave piece, you should call it the sun shoves back. Yeah, I don't have any names or any of that stuff figured out yet. Again, I just started that project. That one is very new. If you didn't have the gear you have now and were on a tight budget or lived in an apartment with close neighbors, would you then use the Axe-Fx Amplitube guitar rig as a main amp sim to record with? You know, again, my preferences are the real amp no matter what. And that's actually one of the reasons I love the Friedman stuff, is because it doesn't have to be very loud to sound good. Dave Friedman just mastered the master volume, you know. So, you know, here at home, these amps aren't very loud at all. They're quite quiet, but they still sound amazing. Now, they're tube amps, so you start turning them up, that's when they come to life, for sure. But it's just preference, you know. The listener doesn't care what you used. You know, I mean, we're guitar players. We talk about this stuff. But when somebody's listening to your song, a guitar player might still wonder, I wonder if they used, you know, something digital or something, you know, real. We're going to talk about that stuff. But ultimately, as long as it works for the song, that's all that matters, you know? So I don't know if I can answer that question other than my preference, no matter what the situation, is real amps, just because, again, I don't want to mess around with everything in the software. I just want to mic up a cabinet because I know how to do it. And by the way, if you've never done it, it takes 5 seconds to learn how to mic up a cabinet. Grab a 57 and just point it at the cone, at the cap, and then put it off axis and listen to that. Move it to the edge of the cap, move it to the middle of the speaker, the edge of the speaker, and just play the same thing. Play the same thing, move it. Play the same thing, move it, and go back and just listen and see what sounds good to you. And in a matter of a few minutes, you have figured out how to mic your cabinet. It's really not hard, and it's as good as it's going to get, you know? At least for me. At least for me. But that's a great question. To me, the answer is always whatever works. That goes for anything in life. Live and let live. You want to practice this religion, you want to do this, you want to do this. As long as it's not infiltrating me, live and let live. Do whatever you're going to do. Whatever gets you through the day. Studio One has helped me to compose whilst recording. Yeah, again, I've never used Studio One. I've always just used Pro Tools. I have used Logic, but I don't get along very well with Logic. Streamlabs, like setting up a Pro Tools template for yourself. Yeah, you know, I figured once you get a template going, you just start it, it'll serve the purpose. I got to do it. I got to look into it. I'm just starting, you know, again, that's why I wanted to go live tonight and just put the toes in the water. And thank you, by the way, again, thank you everybody for joining me tonight. There's many different ways you could be spending your time, and I hugely appreciate just sitting down and having a conversation. Aside from the whole point of let me start testing a couple of things, I'll probably grab a different platform tomorrow and test that, and go from there. When recording your acoustic stuff, do you only use mics or do you also add in the piezo? No, I only use mics. I don't like the sound of, I don't care what the guitar is, what the acoustic is. I'm not into piezo pickups. I'm not into the line output. It just never sounds real, you know, to me. I've got, I know you can't see it, but right here, right off camera, there's two mics set up. And these mics will not move until I'm done with the acoustic record. And when I'm ready to record, I just move my chair over and I position myself with this. I take the body of whatever acoustic I'm using and I put it right at the sound hole, and this is my measurement so that I'm always in the same place. And they are on an angle, so I know I'm always parallel to the angle. And distance-wise, I'm always just doing this, because if you're too close or too far away, the tone is going to change. And if you have to punch in, which inevitably you're going to have to when you're recording, you can't have those tonal differences. So mics are set up right here, got the measurement going on, we're all good. Hey, Evan. Sorry for the nerdy tech questions. Love your streams. Do you stream with your camera on 4K, then OBS changed to 1080? Well, that's what we were dealing with tonight. This is a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K. It is right now set to 4K 30. It is being ingested into Wirecast as 1080p 30, I think. And then from there, I can set the output to whatever I need to. Not 4K, but because YouTube, I don't think streams in 4K. Maybe I'm wrong. There is a setting beyond 1080, but I don't think it's full 4K. Anyway, I have it set to 1080, but for some reason, YouTube is not giving me 1080, right? Is it still not giving us 1080? Yeah, no, it's only streaming at 720. So that's something I'm gonna have to figure out. Why is it streaming 720 when it's set for 1080? Maybe I missed something, completely possible. But yeah, 1080 to me is where it should be for streaming. We'll figure it out. Hey Russ, what an amazing backdrop. Thanks, man, I appreciate that. I'm a, you know, like any other guitar player, I'm a big guitar nerd, so I wanted things to be set up nicely. I want to look at it and think, oh, that's nice. That's inspiring to look at. So yeah, that's why I have it set up like this for sure. How has your playing style evolved over the years? That's a great question as well. Thank you. A lot of great questions here. You know, I like I said before, life is ever changing. To try and stop it from changing is futile. because the only constant in life is change, as we all know. To me, that also affects me as a person, my mood, my mindset. That also affects when I pick up the guitar, what do I want to play? So to that end, I love playing a lot of different stuff, for better or for worse, you know, because it's like, what do I want to play today? A lot of times it's different from yesterday. That can be a problem when you're trying to establish an artistic identity, right? You can think of Joe Bonamassa, oh, he's a blues player. He's maybe a blues rock player even, but you know, he's definitely a blues player. I don't know. Again, most people know me as a rock player, but I love playing funk, jazz, fusion, blues. Oh my God, I love playing blues. But I don't think I could do just one of them. The one, if I had to pick one, it would be fusion, because fusion by definition, by nature, is a combination of everything you could possibly want to throw in there. It is definitely jazz tinged, but you can really throw anything you want in there. But that's why I do multiple projects. That's why, like I said, right now I've got this band. It's definitely like a jam band kind of thing, a funk tinged, but not even really that much. It's just got elements of it in there. The acoustic record, that's unaccompanied acoustic. That's very different. The music I'm working on for my EP is also different. So life just should make that decision for you. At least for me it does. As spiritual as that might sound. Are the mics both condensers or a mix of condenser and For the acoustic stuff, I'm using a Warm Audio 14 and a Warm Audio 84, which is essentially an AKG 414 and a Neumann 84. But this stuff is awesome. Warm Audio, I swear, they are just pulling the rug out of the industry, out from under the industry, because this stuff is way cheaper. Granted, it's made overseas, but as long as it's good quality, as long as it's doing what it's supposed to, when I put out this acoustic record, I could have told you that I am renting $10,000 microphones. No one on the planet would know the difference. You know, I really would argue that. No one would know the difference. This stuff sounds so good. So that's what I'm using. I've got the 84 45 degree angle on the fretboard here, basically at the 12th fret. And then the 414 is capturing the body. And the two of them together, it just sounds big. It's capturing every frequency I could want from the frequency range. It's very real sounding. And that's what I like about acoustic recordings. And that was my whole philosophy going into my first acoustic record, which again, you can find on all of the streaming platforms. I wanted it to sound like you were sitting right here with me and I was just playing acoustic guitar for you. Like, I want it to sound raw. I want it to sound real, like you're sitting right here in the room with me. So when I'm choosing mics, when I'm placing mics, when I'm mixing the record, you know, that kind of stuff, I want it to sound real. That's what I want. And almost even raw, you know, like real raw. Like that's what I want. I just want it to sound, I want you to hear the wood on the acoustic, you know? So that's what I'm aiming for. Do I have any crappy guitars just for fun? Well, you know, not really anymore. I did have a 12-string Ibanez that I recorded the first song for the new acoustic record with, but it died. I'm going to be completely honest and tell you that I smashed it. I had a temper tantrum and I smashed it to pieces. Why? Because it was a cheap guitar and it was not doing what I needed it to do for the record. It was not producing the tones I wanted. I finished the song. I said, I was like 2/3 through the song, and I was just listening back, and I was like, it's okay, you know, but it's not where like my standards are. And I was like, I'm going to finish it, and then it had to go. That was a crappy guitar. You know, again, we're talking relative terms here. It was just constant buzzing. No matter what, it just was, there were tuning problems. It was like, again, just in the hour and 20 minutes we've been talking here, the theme of this whole thing is I don't like having my time wasted. So when I'm sitting there battling a guitar just to stay in tune, spending my time to do that, just to make it sound good, to try and get rid of any of the buzzing, that's not worth, like that guitar I think is like $300. It's not worth $300 if it's going to take your time like that, and it's not going to do what it should be doing. You know, granted, it's a crappy guitar, so maybe I didn't have the right expectations. I've had that guitar for a long time, though. I don't even remember where I got it, but it does not exist anymore. Listen, every once in a while, you got to take out some frustration. I do have another 12-string on the way. The formula for the perfect number of guitars, n+1, where n equals the number of guitars you currently own. That is correct. That is 100% correct right there. Anybody else having a beer tonight? This is a Yuengling, which if you don't know, I live in Philadelphia, and Yuengling, the brewery, is about an hour from here, and it's America's oldest brewery. And it's cheap beer, and it just tastes good. I don't know. I like it. I love Fusion for its ambiguity. Yeah, I love the ability to throw anything I want into that song. I love that. That's an important part for me. I know you're a UAD fan. Played around with Luna any? That's another great question, because I'm intrigued by UA's Luna platform. I have it installed on this studio computer here, but again, it's just about time, because I got it, installed it, took a look at it. I was like, okay, that's cool. And then it was like, okay, I could spend my time learning this, or I could get to work and do whatever I needed to do that day. But I'll tell you, the real reason that I didn't go any further with it was what is intriguing to me about that platform is the summing. Like the fact that you can put a Neve channel across your mixer and get the summing, the color, that, or the tape machines, and I have those plugins and they're great, they do their thing, but it's different when it's summing. And I'm gonna explore it, you know, one of these days. I'm gonna explore it, but I have not yet. Have you? Has anybody out there explored Luna yet? I hear it's great. I hear it's a really cool thing. Hey Zagger, how are you? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well as well. Got any tips for using a Friedman BE50 in a live setting? Got mine just before COVID and I haven't gigged it yet. You know, Joe Satriani said one time, just turn it up. Whatever the amp is, just turn it up. Because tube amps, they come to life when they're really cranked up. And, you know, anybody who's played through a cranked amp knows that the notes just fly out of those things. So it's got a different feel to it. I'm not going to say it's got an easier feel to it, but it's doing what it should be doing. It's amplifying this thing, and it's just grabbing those notes. It's so touch sensitive when it's really loud. You know, again, a BE50 is a loud amp, like these small box 50s. 50 watts, I mean, that's loud. 20 watts is loud. You know, it's just a matter of once we get out and we get gigging again, right? You just got to figure out the way that it works, best for you. I will say that, like, if I take this rig out and I gig with it, the things that I have to change from playing a little quieter at home, a lot quieter at home, to being out on a stage is I usually have to bring down the EQ, like all of it. Let's say the three main bands, like treble, bass, and mid. Particularly the treble and the bass. Some of that stuff just pops out a little too much. At the same time, though, when you crank your amp, you are going to get a lot more compression. So all of that stuff kind of gets a little squashed eventually, but in a good way. But these Friedmans are so articulate that even loud, they're still very articulate. Even if the gain is all the way up, they're still very articulate. So I find myself, when I go live, just bringing down that EQ a little bit. That's really it. Hopefully we will all get out and we'll be able to play again, and you can discover that for yourself. Hey, Nick. Still doing regular clinics. Your clinics were some of the most inspirational ones I've attended. Thanks, Russ. I appreciate that. Well, yeah, but not this year. I did some last year, but this year, one of the joys of having a beard. This year, the only live stuff that I got to do was out at NAMM, playing that show with Steve. For the unveiling of his new guitar, the Ibanez Pia. So Ibanez held this great event. We played that. It was a great event. The NAMM show stuff was really the only live stuff I got to do this year. Because everything shut down. I mean, that was late January. A month later, you start hearing about this virus. And then, we get into March and everything starts shutting down. So unfortunately, no, I have not done many clinics this year. And that's another thing. It's like you got to adapt to this year. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, well, let me put together. One of the things I was going to do was like an online clinic, right? But for like 10 people. Just like a Zoom call, very intimate, limiting it to 10 people so that everybody can get their questions answered, and we can all sit here, and if we're talking about, all right, well, let's do a slur, let's work on that, and like just one at a time be able to say, okay, go ahead, stuff like that. I would want it to be a pretty small class. Again, I still might do that, but I pushed it to the side so that I could focus on the recordings that I'm working on. But again, if things don't open up and if there is no end in sight for the near future, I'm going to start doing that stuff for sure. That is what crappy guitars are for, rock and roll. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I'm catching up to the comments now. Yeah, smashing a guitar is very rock and roll. You got to do it at least once in your life. I'm pretty sure. Now, I was gonna say I'm pretty sure that's the only guitar that I've really smashed. But I remember one of the tours with Vi a long time ago. I had this red. It was an Ibanez. It was an RG7640 that was converted to a 7620, and the difference was the bridge and the pickups. The 7640s were the cheaper of the two, and it just had a crappy bridge and crappy pickups. So that was all changed, but there was still something. It was just a guitar that wasn't working for me. Night after night after night, I was having a problem with it. And again, at some point, we were over in Europe or something. It got to the point where I was doing my solo, and it was causing a problem for me. I could not, especially during a Steve Vai show, when I get a solo, obviously, as anybody would, I want it to be awesome, right? I only get this small amount of time during this whole show. I want it to be awesome so that aside from all the music you're hearing, you're hearing my music. I wanted to make a good impression on everybody, right? And this guitar was just being a problem, so that one had to go as well. I'm pretty sure after one of my solos, I threw it like off the stage, on the side of the stage, and it landed on its headstock, something like that. But every once in a while, you gotta take your frustration out somehow. I don't condone it. We should all have level heads. Find a different outlet. Was it a string through body or Floyd trem with it? Are we talking about that Ibanez guitar or the acoustic guitar? Obviously, if it was an acoustic guitar, it just had the string through the bridge on those acoustic guitars. That Ibanez, the RG, the 7640 that I was playing. Yeah, we put a basic Ibanez low profile edge on that one, but it was still just a problem. Every once in a while you come across a guitar, it's just not a good guitar. For whatever reason, it was just not a good guitar. Okay, I'll get through a few more questions here. YouTube resident here, great. Oh wait, no. What is YT? Oh, is that VT? I can't even see what the writing is. Tomorrow, my birthday, I'll be drinking sake. Oh, happy birthday, Brett. I want to hear your next album soon. Yeah, me too. Me too. Working on it. Working on a few projects. Nothing will be out this year. Maybe the single from the band, like our first single, will be out, but we'll see. My friend Jasko once told me, if you can't play good, play loud. Again, Satriani said one time to me, he said, just turn it up. And I think I was asking him a question because, we did a bunch of G3 tours. So over those years, you see people's rigs and how they play. And Satriani, Joe used to use the blue Marshall head, which was like the 6100, like it was an anniversary head, but it was only ever on clean. It was loud, but it was only ever on clean. And his gain, his lead sound, everything was coming from a $35 Boss DS1. Not kidding. This was before his signature pedals. He was using a Boss DS1 into the clean channel of a Marshall 6100. And I was like, how? How is this? I mean, it's, as you know, Joe's sound, it was right there. Of course, the tone is in the head and in the fingers. But it sounded incredible. And he's like, just turn it up. Just turn it up. This is the best advice. I can remember back 2005-ish learning many of those awesome Riff of the Week videos that you made. Is there a place online I could go to find them again? Yes, Rob, it's Gitopia, gitopia.com, Guitopia. Every single one of what used to be called the Riff of the Week is on there. It's now called Lesson of the Week, and I'm probably even going to change it away from of the week so that they come out not every week, but maybe every week and a half or something like that. I don't know yet. I'm still figuring all that stuff out for next year. But as of now, I'm in season 14 of doing a lesson every week. I'm getting older, and I gotta give myself a little bit of a break. So like the last 2 weeks of the year, everybody's so distracted anyway with the holidays. Maybe not this year, but usually every year, the last 2 weeks of the year, I'm taking all that off now, starting this year. traveling, again, not this year, but it's like everybody's distracted anyway. But 14 years, basically a lesson every single week. That is all on Gitopia. Every one of them is on Gitopia. Plus 400 plus jam tracks. I don't even know what it is. It's like this Wednesday, it'll be like number 408 or 409, something like that. There's 400 something jam tracks. All sorts of stuff. There's all sorts of stuff on that website. But yes, everything that used to be here on YouTube that was called Riff of the Week, that is all on Gitopia. I just want to say you were a big inspiration on my playing when I first learned the I'm the Hell Outta Here G3 performance. Still blows my... Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I remember that. That was a lot of fun. Those G3 tours were so much fun, like with 3 bands. It was such a great experience for me because, I was the youngest on those tours by far, and to tour with, of course, not only Steve, but Satch and John Petrucci and Malmsteen and Paul Gilbert, Steve Lukather, Steve Morse. Who else was on those tours? A lot of people. It was so much fun. And compared to a regular Steve Vai show, our set was only like 45 minutes or 50 minutes. It was like a vacation. It was awesome. It was really great. Lucky you got to play with Nita Strauss as well. Yeah, she was an awesome person, for sure. That was the first time that NAMM show thing, the Ibanez event, that was the first time I ever met her, but super cool, great player. We had a great time. That was a great event. May have answered this already, but do you use a specific pedal for sustain? No, not for sustain. Every once in a while I'll use a compressor, but that good compression, like real compression and real sustain, it really comes from the rig. Like an amp, especially an amp that's cranked up, or a well-made guitar, well-balanced pickups. I think all that stuff, it's all in the formula. But certainly you could throw on a compressor pedal and try to squeeze, no pun intended, try to squeeze some more sustain out of it. But like even this, okay, so this is a little bit saturated. Okay, so that is what it is. But at that point, it's up to this. The guitar has to be very resonant. The pickups have to accept that resonation, but everything needs to be able to vibrate. And that's one of the best things about PRS guitars, because Paul Reed Smith is fanatical about that stuff. He's obsessed with constantly making these guitars better. Obviously that's been his life's mission, and he continues to do that like every single day. That's why PRS guitars are just so great for me, because I know he is so into making these things like if I gave him this guitar was made in 2010. So this guitar is almost 11 years old already. And if I gave this back to him, he would say, oh, well, now we're doing this different with the nut, and we're doing this different with the neck joint, stuff like that. He is always pushing his own envelope. And that whole thing equates to this formula going into doing what it should do, which is resonate, and get that good sustain and playability. Hey, Craig. Craig says he's got a Silver Sky and a Fender Master Build Strat. Very cool. There's something about the Silver Sky that I somehow like more. What are your findings after having both guitars for so long? I love the Silver Sky. Again, if you're a Strat or an S-type fan, the Silver Sky is awesome because, again, it's got that PRS build quality. So these two Strats right here, those are Fender Custom Shops. They're way more expensive than the Silver Sky, and they both needed work. Brand new from the Fender Custom Shop, out of the case, they both needed work. What? How is that possible? But they both did. This gold one, which I love, that's a 57 reissue. It needed the B string nut slot cut out a little bit more because the string was sticking. Okay? This one simply wouldn't stay in tune. It's all good now, but after paying that much, whatever your cost is for a Fender custom shop guitar, and listen, Fender makes great stuff. Their custom shop builders they're great, but there's something going on with the QC, the quality control, or some companies call it QA, quality assurance. PRS, that simply doesn't exist. At least in my experience, I've been a PRS artist for since 2010 or 2009. Something like that. And I've done clinics for PRS where I don't even take my guitars. I say to the shop, hey, I need this guitar and this guitar. And I go and I play it and it feels like one of my guitars. That's kind of undeniable. And I think at this point, anybody who's familiar with PRS will attest to that. The quality control coming out of a PRS is off the charts and well above most of these other companies. And the Silver Sky is no difference. Now, if you do follow me, you remember when I got this Silver Sky, which is hanging up over here, I opened it up, I unboxed it live on Facebook. While the quality is there, the guitar wasn't set up for me, right? So if you look back at that, it felt stiff, for whatever reason. I mean, I know it ships with 4 springs. It ships with 10s, which is what I usually use anyway. But for some reason, the guitar just felt stiff. But all I did was yank out one of the springs and spread out the other 3. The Silver Skies also don't come with the bridge floating. It comes with the bridge hard against the body, which I need to be able to go. I want to take the whole chord, and I want to give the whole chord vibrato, which of course we do with the bridge. So I had to adjust that. I had to set it up, but that took 5 minutes. It was really simple. You got to remember that when you go to a guitar store or you buy a new guitar online or something, it's not your guitar yet. It was not built for you. It was not set up for you. So give them a chance. Give the guitars a chance. You got to set it up for yourself. Do what it takes to make it yours. And the Silver Sky is just a freaking awesome S-type guitar for sure. And more people that are getting their hands on them, it's kind of hard to deny. They're great guitars. They have a different feel to them. PRS has a different feel. It's like Fender's over here and Gibson's over here, and PRS is right down the middle on purpose. And I hate to name drop, but I had this conversation with Joe Bonamassa years ago, and he said, when I pick up a PRS, I just don't know what I'm playing. Joe is so steeped in those vintage instruments, and he is so knowledgeable. He knows the ins and outs. You all know him. He knows the ins and outs of all of that stuff, and he's like, when I pick up a PRS, it's right down the middle, and sometimes that can feel a little weird. But that's what I appreciate about it. It's like, it's kind of the best of all the worlds, right down the middle. It's really, really cool. Sorry for the long answer on which do I like better, but that's my answer for a Silver Sky. Oh, Youngstown, gotcha. What are your thoughts on the Synergy amp modules? I have not had much chance to play them yet. But what I have heard sounded really good. I mean, that's what Vi's using now. Sounded awesome. Granted, I've only done one show with him while he's been using that this year, but it did sound great. I love the idea. If you remember, Randall did this, right? Randall? I think it was Randall. That was the first version of the Synergy stuff, was Randall back in the day. Probably 15 years ago, or maybe a little bit less. I love the idea. I also love simplicity though. And for me, just like one amp I kind of dig that. But I will be trying them out because, you know, when we do like fly shows, South America, Australia, that kind of stuff, I'm not usually taking one of these amps because we're flying every day, and you know, just for cost purposes, you know, there's a budget obviously, so usually I'm just renting Marshalls down there. But now that those synergies are out, I'm very interested in just taking one of those tabletop interfaces with like a Friedman module and taking that with me, you know, in my carry-on on the plane, and then when we get to whatever venue, then going into the return of a rented Marshall or something, so I can get the preamp, like the real Friedman sound that I'm used to, but obviously not have to carry the head around. So ask me that question like after all the gigging starts up again. But again, I hear they're awesome. You know, I hear they're great. How are the Alessandro modded Marshalls compared to the Friedman's? Alessandro's Fenders versus the Friedman factory hand-wired amps. Thanks. You know, Marshalls are just different. Marshalls are different than Friedman's in many, many different ways. And I have to say that the Friedman's, to me, are the evolution of like a nice plexi. But a plexi does its thing so well. You know, it's a good plexi, a hand-wired plexi. Like, you know, that's doing its thing. But, you know, you got to remember, plexis are usually, you know, they're not master volume. They're one channel. They just do their thing. And, you know, those amps, they got to be cranked to really bring it to life. But even then, sometimes they get very flubby. They get over-compressed. There's a lack of clarity. All of the EQ basically has to be off because, especially when it's loud, it can just get so ear-biting. The Friedmans aren't like that. The Friedmans, I just think of them as an evolved version. I love the Marshalls, but obviously the Friedmans are the ones that I would choose over that. But George Alessandro, you know, his work, he is a guru. He is the definition of an amp guru. So I gave him my Marshalls, I gave him my Fenders, and I just said, do your thing, because he knows what a twin reverb is supposed to sound like from 1965, and he takes brand new ones and makes them sound like that. Same thing with brand new Marshalls. He is the guru, and luckily he doesn't live very far from me. So again, I mean, when I got, you know, those amps back, they just had more life to them. They were far more responsive, sensitive, dynamic. They just had more life to them, and that's really the difference between hand-wired and not hand-wired. Stuff that is not hand-wired still sounds good. It's just the hand-wired stuff just sounds better, but it's beyond that. It's the feel and the response and the dynamic range with the hand-wired stuff. It's definitely got something to it for sure. Hey Eli, so good to see you in this format. I love the tone on every axe you've graced my ears with. I would love to hear a story about how hard Vi pushed you during your time with him. Love the channel. Thanks Eli, thanks. By the way, I have to give everybody the obligatory give a sub because I'm going to be doing this a lot more here. That is the point. It's to get out and have more interaction with everybody on a far more regular basis. I have neglected the public channels for a long time. So I appreciate that comment for sure. You know, with Vi, it's always a challenge. His music is not easy, but you grow as a player when you are challenged. You grow as a person when you're challenged, of course. We all know that. And the challenge could be frustrating. It's very oftentimes difficult. But you come out the other side of it evolved, right? You more experienced. So, with Steve, like, pushing me, to me, it's, and he certainly does, but in an almost passive way, in the sense that, I mean, my gig with him, my job with him is to show up prepared, and to show up as prepared as possible, So I push myself in preparation for that, because I want to show up as prepared as possible so that I don't waste his time. I as professional as possible. I've worked really hard to just be as professional as possible. So in that passive way, yeah, there's a big push, because I want to show up and just be impressive, and keep the job, really. And it's been, again, 20 plus years now. So it's great. It's awesome. Hey Ron, what is your favorite thing working with Vi? Has he ever been hard on you? Well, again, not really. I mean, not on purpose anyway. Steve is the best person. Like, he is an evolved human being, and if you watch those live streams that he was doing earlier this year, you can get that. Like, you can get that sense. He's just an awesome person. That's the best thing about working with Steve, is him. The touring, that's my purpose as a musician. The fun that we have on the road is so amazing, or off the road, it's just amazing. But again, the best thing about being in the Vi band, or the best part about working with Steve is, and I'm talking about Steve in particular, I'm not talking about any other bandmates or whatever, I'm just talking about Steve here. It's the human side of it versus the music. The music, that's kind of a given. It's awesome. But the human side of it, because you could be hired to be in somebody's band, but if they're a jerk, or if somebody else is just not on the same wavelength, that can be really difficult, to the point where no matter what the gig is, you would probably leave after a certain amount of time. The proof is there. Being in his band for so long, I haven't felt a need to leave, professionally anyway, because it's such a great situation, and that goes to the human level. So that's my answer for that. 728 weekly lessons. Is that what it's up to? I don't even know what the count is. I just know that this is the 14th year of a lesson every week, and we're in October of that 14th year. So there's a ton. Like, I'd be surprised if anybody could get through all of them at some point. I mean, with enough time, it is what it is. But yeah, there's a lot up there on Gitopia. Yeah, this is a PRS. It does feel good. It does sound good. Hey, Wendell. Yeah, we're going to stop soon, just because we've been live for about 2 hours. But this has been awesome. Again, this has been an educational thing for me. This was this version that I'm going to try and stream with tomorrow, or maybe, middle of the week or something. I will go in and I'll look at some more settings to try and just keep making this better, and we'll do this again for sure. But it's great to hang, and thank you everybody for helping me out with this. I appreciate it. PRS does spoil people with the out-of-the-box playability. Yeah, I mean, like I said, even with the Silver Sky, I had to tweak it, but I know that guitar was not set. That guitar is set up for John Mayer. It's his guitar. Out of the factory, it is set up to his specs. So those are not my specs, I had to tweak it, but it was a very easy tweak. What do you find the Strats have that Silver Sky doesn't? Can you explain modern versus vintage regarding PRS versus... I mean, they just have a different feel. Vintage or modern, I mean, the vintage stuff should be broken in, it should feel broken in, it should have a certain sound to it because the wood is aged. The paint is thinner, etc. A modern version of the exact same Strat from Fender, it's going to have a slightly different sound to it, a slightly different feel to it. But in general, it's going to be very familiar. The Silver Sky is very familiar, but it's like, instead of brother sister, it's like cousin, you know? It's still very much a Strat type guitar. It's an S type guitar, right? And an exceptional one at that. It just has a slightly different feel to it, you know? Like you said, you've got the Silver Sky, you've got a master built Strat. You should feel that difference there. I mean, the neck shape, just the way it feels. Again, we're talking a small percentage difference, and that was the point, was to make essentially a Strat version, or a PRS version of a Strat, from somebody who, both people, John Mayer and Paul Reed Smith, who are both very well versed in Strats. They took the two, a 63 and a 64, and they put them together, and that's what became the Silver Sky. Awesome. It's an awesome guitar. But at least with the Strats that I have, my Silver Sky does feel different. It does sound different. Nothing better or worse. It's just its own version. McCarty and Leo Fender had a baby called Paul Reed Smith. Yeah, exactly. Racks are going to make a comeback. You know, it's very interesting. It's very interesting because I was thinking about next year, and there are some plans on the horizon, and I was thinking to myself, gear-wise, like effects-wise, pedal board or a rack system. And again, it's hard to take a rack on an airplane every day, like if we're touring South America or something. So I like to have a touring board that is very capable. Obviously, it has to be for the show, but still very compact. So that would be a floor-based situation, like what I've got here. I'm using the RJM Mastermind. It's called the Mastermind, the PBC6X, the little one. All the MIDI switching you could want, presets, instant access, and it's tiny. It's like this big. I love it. But the gear and guitar nerd in me was kind of thinking of another rack once touring starts again. We'll see, though. Racks can be a lot. And you still need a pedal board with them. But we'll see. Got some time to figure it out. Where are we here? Hey, Henry, how are you? Natus? I'm sorry if I'm butchering names. I have to apologize for that. Was about to sub when I realized I've been subscribed for years. Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's like you've got all the secrets Steve and Frank have. Again, it's like, that's why like I grew up playing tennis, which I'm not sure was a great thing for my hands, but I always wanted to play with better people because their experience is you're gonna absorb some of that. So hanging around with somebody like Steve and him hanging around with somebody like Frank, yeah, you pass on and it's not even active. It's just through experience. It's just osmosis. You gain knowledge through hanging out with people like that, and certainly getting your own experience, of course. Hey, RC, thanks so much. Appreciate that. You're welcome, Ron. Yeah, you and Steve are great. I'd love to play with Steve one day. Hey, you never know. Hey, Kevin. Bought one of your CDs at a show a few years ago. Enjoyed a conversation with you like those spider capos. Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate that. Today I just finished recording another song for my acoustic record. I was using the spider capo. Those things are fantastic. They're great. Brett, thank you so much for hanging out, buddy. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the comments. Wendell says, I heard you mention on a Tone Talk video about the Friedman twin sister. Have you had a chance to play one? No, not yet. Not yet. But I'm always excited, and I certainly will whenever I can get my hands on it, but I'm always excited when Dave Friedman is coming out with a new amp. because I have, if you watch that Tone Talk, my first Friedman was an early BE 100 from 2012, and it's sitting in the other room. I still play it. It's awesome. But the way that I've even seen just that one amp, the BE 100, evolve into the versions that it is now, and the BE 100 Deluxe, that thing is awesome. The BE 50 Deluxe, the small box 50, the twin sister, the Dirty Shirley. When I first plugged into the Dirty Shirley and just bam, that thing. It's just so awesome. So I always look forward to hearing what else he's coming out with, because it's kind of, again, that word experience. He's folding all of those previous experiences into these new amps. Really, really awesome. Hey, Julian, I appreciate it. Julian says, thanks for everything I've learned at Gitopia. Again, if you're just joining us, Gitopia is my guitar education platform. Give it a view if you are so inclined. I can't help but feel you are a man of integrity. P.S. I was at the Astoria. Awesome. Again, I have, when I look back at like my experiences, or even just stuff like posting on social media, it's gotta have integrity with it. No matter what you're doing, and we all, no matter what you're doing, we all can feel when we're kind of half-assing things or faking things or something. That's no way to do anything. That's no way to live. So we got to have that real integrity to anything, And I can tell just from that comment that you are a person of integrity as well, because your mind wouldn't even be thinking of it if you weren't like that as well. So kudos for you. Hey, Robert, how are you, man? What was my favorite rock bands I listened to in high school? Again, maybe in high school was like the 90s for me. So I was listening to Rage Against the Machine, Korn, Nine Inch Nails, a lot of stuff. But like junior high school, we're talking like all the hair bands and all that stuff, which was all fun. And there was a lot of great musicians, obviously. And then we're getting into the 80s, and we're getting into Whitesnake, David Lee Roth, Van Halen. Oh, God, all sorts of great stuff for sure. But Boston, Zepp, Pink Floyd, The Who, Hendrix, and then we're going to go down the list of all the blues guys that I was listening to. Robert Cray, I think him and Stevie Ray were the first guys that really got me into blues. Robin Ford and Scott Henderson got me into like jazz blues or fusion, some kind of thing there. Of course, then you go down, you listen to the Three Kings, and you just before that, you go to Robert Johnson. And the list just goes on. I think being a listener of music makes, on some level, you have to be a pretty avid listener of music to become a musician, at least on some level. I played with Daryl Abbott and went to school with him. That's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, another guy. Rest in peace. What did Homework from Vi look like? Was it charts with certain special parts notated, or a full score of his expected arrangement? Yeah, if I'm lucky, I would get actual written music from Steve. A lot of times it was like, all right, here's the song, go learn it. And it was just the music, and I had to pick out like my part for it. Which then we would refine, once we got into rehearsal. But if I was lucky, I would get Homework with actual, like a part soloed out in Pro Tools or an actual notation. Yeah, that would be a good day. Hey, DB. DB says, I was at the first G3 here in San Diego, and 16-year-old Kenny Wayne Shepherd opened up. It was Eric Johnson that year. 16-year-old Kenny Wayne Shepherd was the youngest there. That was before me. I was not on the Kenny Wayne Shepherd tours. That was before I was in Steve's band. And I saw that tour as well. I saw it was like Kenny Wayne Shepherd wasn't opening. He was the third G. It was Satch, Steve, and Kenny Wayne, and Robert Fripp was the opening act. This was probably 97, I want to say. Probably around 97. Kenny Wayne, love him though. I mean, he's just a sick player. You're welcome, Craig. Yeah, you're welcome. Rob says, have you ever participated in a guitar duel? Well, not really, but, on tour every single night, Steve and I are trading at some point in the show. And, it's Steve I, so I try and keep up. Hey, Sean, how are you, bud? Hope you're having a great evening as well. Good to see you. Hanging around Steve and Frank. When's the new album coming out? You always have cool. Thanks, Henry. I appreciate it. Again, I'm working on various things right now. Various things will be out next year. I'm working on it, like as much as possible. Has Steve always been your main client over the years, or did you play with other cool artists? I get asked that question a lot. I would love to play with a lot of different artists, but the touring with Vi over these years, like if you look at the last 20 years, I've been on tour more than not. So on those times where I have had a chance to be off tour, I've been releasing my own records, and I did some tours with my own music and that kind of thing. I'm content to kind of stay home and do my thing, but gigging is the number one thing in my life as a musician, and I would there's tons of people that I would play with for sure. What impresses me is you have mellowed and humbled over these years. Nothing but I appreciate that, RC. Yeah, I mean, again, I think everybody when you gain experience and you get older, you chill out a little bit. I can still be a little amped up, but that's nothing, and nobody's doing except for my own. It's just, I think to myself, I want to do this, and this. There's just so much I want to get done and only so much time during the day. So working on it though. I appreciate that. What made you start using 7 strings? Do you play metal and heavier stuff, or mostly Vi's music? What makes you stick with ash and maple most of the time over mahogany? All great questions. I started playing a 7-string just for, like we were talking about earlier, like creative inspiration from gear. I remember I was in college and I walked into this one guitar store in my hometown, and there was an Ibanez Universe, the black one with the green dots on it, sitting there. And again, this is in the 90s. Nobody really wanted this stuff, Everybody wanted Fender Jaguars, and stuff like that, which are great. But I was able to get this Ibanez Universe for very cheap. But I found it inspiring with the extra string. And then, just writing with it, it was just a little bit different. It wasn't about playing metal or anything, because 7 strings were developed for jazz, not metal, a long, long time ago. Obviously, they are very well suited for metal and harder, type stuff. If you listen to my older music, which again you can find on all the streaming services, there's plenty of 7-string stuff on there. It's not exactly what I would call metal, but just some heavier stuff for sure. I just found it inspirational to have this like lower string happening. And then the other half of that, ash and maple over mahogany. I love mahogany. It's just it has a very mid-range forward bell like chime to it. great. It cuts through the mix with the rest of your band very well. But it's not my go-to. I like something a little bit more balanced, definitely more balanced. And ash just has this sweetness to the high end. It's got a little bit sweeter, airier presence to it than alder. It's got less mid-range than mahogany. That's why I like ash. Maple or rosewood, honestly, I could give or take one or the other. A lot of times it comes down to the visual of it. Like with this color scheme, I wanted, some contrasting elements to it, but I wanted a maple board on this one in particular. But there are some others hanging up here that we went with rosewood. There's a mahogany, an ebony board on one of these. Yeah, that's why I like ash. Mike Keneally was in Vi's band back in those days, and then I joined. So it was me, Mike Keneally, Mike Mangini, who I'm sure most of you know is now the drummer in Dream Theater, Philip Bino, who is still in the Vi band. He had a little departure when Billy Sheehan came in, but now he's been back in the band for a long time. But then Mike Keneally left and Tony McAlpine came in as well. So it was Tony, myself, Steve, Billy Sheehan, and Jeremy Colson on drums. And then after that, we did the violin players. And then it's been a four-piece really ever since, which is, as much as I love Tony, Mike Keneally, I like the four-piece. Hey, Jeff. That's all right. No worries. We're going to wrap up here soon. It's 11:30 here in Philly. I've done enough talking. We've been live for a couple hours here now, which again, I mean, this has been fantastic. I could sit here all night with you guys, honestly. Kevin says, seen Robert Cray several times, Stevie Ray, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, Andy Summers. Yeah, man, these are all awesome players. Robert Cray, there's something just so traditional about his playing and pure. Like pure, when I think pure blues, I think of Robert Cray, people that are still alive today. I think of Robert Cray, I think of Buddy Guy, just like traditional, pure blues. Robert Cray, he is just awesome. I love his playing. I love his tone. It's so pure. It's just pure blues, for sure. What's the one piece of gear that you have that most people don't know that you use but can't live without? I don't really know. I mean, I'm pretty much every video or thing I do live or record or anything, I'm playing through the small boxes. Again, of course, tonight I'm playing through the Axe Effects. Guitar-wise, I play a lot of PRSs, live especially. I play the PRSs, but I play the Strats a lot. In the last month, I've probably played the Les Pauls, especially this gold top here is a 57. That's a Gibson Custom Shop 57 reissue. The guitar is so good. Like the last month, that's what I've mostly been playing with. There isn't really one thing that is like a hidden thing that I use, or I have the Strymon Volante and the loop, just a little bit of delay and reverb. And honestly, most of the time that's it. I love fuzz pedals, so I'll use a fuzz pedal or a simple clean boost just to push these amps. An overdrive every once in a while. Like right now on the board, I've got a modified, an Analog Man modified Ibanez 808, a TS 808. Just depends on what I'm doing. But again, if all of that went aside, just guitar to amp, I'd still be good with that. And I like that, I'd like, as I get older, things get simpler, but that's because more than ever, I know my tone and I know how to get my tone, and it's just guitar to amp most of the time. Hey, Caesar. Caesar says, recently I've been remembering the times we were talking on MSN Messenger back in '07. Great times. Wow. MSN Messenger probably doesn't even exist anymore, right? So long ago. You're welcome, Marcy. Absolutely. Philip and Jeremy are great. Again, I haven't seen either of them since January. Last month, towards the end of September, was my birthday, and I talked with Steve for a couple hours on FaceTime, and it was great to catch up. I did talk with Philip that day as well. We text, plenty, but I haven't seen the guys in a long time. I certainly am looking forward to seeing everybody again. Oh no, you have COVID right now? Yeah, I'm sure it's not fun. It is just going through the roof, To me, it's like, just stay home. Everybody stay home. Let's get rid of this thing. We gotta live, but we also gotta, be healthy as well. Did Steve get you from the MI connection? MI hooks people up. It was while I was at MI that I got the job with Steve's manager, which is inevitably how I met Steve. But MI didn't really have anything to do with that actively. But I know they're very active in trying to get their students and alumni gigs now. Or before COVID. And afterwards as well. Shove the Sun Aside is one of my favorite instrumental albums. Thanks, Tired. I appreciate that. Songwriting is great, melodies memorable and emotional, full tasty 7-string stuff. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you. That was the goal. I appreciate that. All right, Rob, thanks so much, buddy. Thanks for joining me here. I appreciate that. We'll do it again for sure, very soon. All right, I'll take one more question, then we'll wrap it up here. What is the favorite Strat Les Paul PRS 6 and 7 and acoustic of all the multiple in my room? 7 strings. I mean, it's probably this one, just because this one is so broken in. This one's been on every Vitor since 2010. It's got plenty of dings and stuff all over it. It's just really well broken in. It just feels great. And it sounds great too. It's real simple, a 5-way, 2 pickups. This thing sounds great. This, can you guys see? Yeah, this custom, this one over here, that orangish bursty one, that's probably my favorite PRS 6-string that I have. It's just a really awesome guitar. That one is about 4 years old already. The Les Pauls, this gold top, again, it's just kind of been my favorite lately. But this one that you can kind of see, that one has P90s in it, and it's the only guitar that I have that has P90s, and P90s are something special. They just have a, somewhat humbucker, somewhat single coil thing happening. I mean, that's kind of what the P90s are. There's something special about it. It's hard to pick, but I have been playing that gold top just nonstop lately. Strat-wise, again, they all kind of serve their purposes differently. This is a Nash Guitars Strat, $1,800, whatever it is, and really, really nice. It's hard to, it's hard to pick. That's my ADD, or when I walk in this room, I'm like, what do I feel like today? Or again, it has a lot to do with what I need to have done recording-wise. Because nothing sounds like a Les Paul. PRSs sound their own thing. Strats sound like their own thing. Yeah. You're an open book. That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's the point of sharing, and especially sharing experiences. We can all be better as a species if we share the experience and share the knowledge. That's what we're going for here. Hey, Will, how are you? Okay, one more question, then we're gonna wrap it up here. Henry is asking, some sidemen guitarists who mainly play live are feeling the strain of not performing now at this time. Do you miss playing live intensely, and how do you cope with this lockdown of live music? Oh yeah, absolutely. I cannot wait to get out and play live. Like I said before, that's what I feel my purpose is as a musician. Obviously, you got to create. If you're not creating, well, if you're not creating, you can still be a musician for sure. But if you're not creating, you're not an artist as well. And to me, every human part of why we're alive is to create something, you know. And a lot of people fulfill that by having a family. Aside from, which is amazing. Aside from that, though, that creation process, that's pretty huge, you know, and I do that all the time. Like I said, I'm not working on one record right now. I'm working on 3. But playing live, that's where it has to go. I don't know if I would continue making records if I couldn't eventually, hopefully, go play them live. Because I love that so much. I probably would. But yeah, I can't wait to get out and play live. All right, everybody, let's pause for tonight. We'll do this again. Maybe we'll do it again, well, sometime this week for sure. But I hugely appreciate everybody joining me, specifically here on YouTube. I think this is the second time I've ever streamed on YouTube. I've always been doing it, you know, aside from Gitopia, I've been doing it on Facebook. But I want to do it more on YouTube. And I will definitely be doing it. And thank you so much for your questions tonight. Thank you for bearing with me, especially at the beginning while I'm trying to figure a couple of things out. I'm going to look at tonight and refine what's happening here on the back end. And we'll do this again for sure. But thank you so much to everybody who joined. And Dejo, thank you so much for the super chat. Give a sub, all that good stuff. And we'll definitely do this again, you know, very soon. All right. Excellent, everybody. RC, you get better. All right. Everybody take care, stay well, and we will do this again very soon. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Take care. Good night.